going on, peeps? Making this video in regards to finishing the job on this car. I'm going to show you what tools you need in order to do the oil filter adapter gasket and the oil cooler gasket. So in this case, we'll need the trim removal tool. This will get rid of the retainer clip that is underneath the panel, which is that piece right there. Could probably use a flathead, honestly. If it's a pain in the ass, I would say just get rid of it, but if you have this tool, then you're set. Should be coming out easy. A 10mm socket to get the under tray bolts off. If I'm not mistaken, I believe there's 7. Could be wrong. I used a 1/4" ratchet to get some of the bolts off, but only for the oil filter adapter, you're gonna need a long wrench, 3/8 wrench. I'm on a roll today. A long 3/8 ratchet. I suggest an extension as well with a 10mm bolt to get the 4 bolts off. It's kind of tricky on the top right adapter, so what I use is I use a 1/4" swivel. I will suggest if you get a swivel for a 10mm, get a thinner one because this gets in the way a little. Still managed to get it, and I have an adapter that fits on a 3/8 wrench, but 1/4" ratchet is going to be a pain in the butt, so you would try to use the 3/8. And then last but not least, a 15, any type 15mm size. I have this ratchet wrench because it actually made it easier to get to the adapter. But that's going to be when you take the top part of the oil cooler off to separate the oil cooler and the adapter from the bottom. Obviously, you'll see in the video, but just letting you guys know what you need. Other than that, last but not least, a 17mm bolt. You're gonna drain the oil too, so I would suggest if you're gonna do this, do the oil change as well. And know that 6 quarts is normally what our cars take. At the end of this video, you'll see, well, actually, no, sorry. Yeah, no. I already finished up everything. In total, it was 6 quarts, but there was half missing. So obviously, you gotta put a little bit more. I would suggest probably 0.1 first, like put 0.1 of a quarts in or 2. First, put 0.1. Double check it. Don't overfill it. You don't have to put half of it in, depending on how the cars are. Also, don't judge me. I already mentioned this in the video. Don't judge me about that. That's gonna be fixed soon. But hopefully, this video helps you guys out if you want to do this thing yourself. It is kind of tricky, so hopefully you guys enjoy. If you have any questions, feel free to message me or comment on the video. I'll do my best to respond back as possible. Also, one final thing. A lot of these P3s have bad washers on the drain plug. So when you place the drain plug, when you take off the drain plug, place the washer, because these washers on our cars are just shit. So that's why we always replace them. I always replace them whenever I do an oil change, and eventually down the road it will leak if you constantly use the same one. So make sure you do that. If it's tricky to get the washer off, I would suggest using a very, very small pick like these from Harbor Freight. You put it in between, you put this little flathead in between the washer and the drain plug. Pry that up. From there, if you can actually pry it up, I'll get some dikes and cut them, because they're a pain in the ass to take off, especially if they've been on there for a while. But yeah, make sure you guys replace that. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a good day. One more final thing that I forgot to mention. You do not need to take off the hoses for the oil cooler. Obviously, the thermostat hose goes directly to the oil cooler, and the hose goes up right over here. So instead of, unless if you're planning on doing a coolant flush, then I would suggest changing those hoses out. There are, again, there's 2 hoses to the oil cooler if you need to look it up. I would suggest getting these parts from Mazda. I got my oil cooler gasket from Mazda. It is a perfect fit. They're not that expensive. I will just double check to see if your nearest dealer, see if they got it. I tried online. It was the wrong size, so I said fuck it. I tried to see if I can go there. I will do that, get that replaced. Obviously, I did a coolant flush way back, so that's why I didn't want to redo it all over again. Otherwise, I had to change the hoses because these things get brittle. So you don't have to do that, unless if you do, go to Mazda, get like 2 bottles of coolant. These hoses are good. There's 2 hoses down there in the oil cooler. Just ask them for the hoses for the oil cooler. They'll show you. because these hoses are brittle and they suck, especially being a 10-year car. Yeah, but hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Have a good day. Retainer clips here and a couple of 10mm bolts. So you take those off, get the pan down, and we'll get started. Now, if you care about your car that much, including underneath, be aware when you take off the panel, there's a hook that goes through that hole. It's gonna be this thing right here. When you take off all the bolts, it will still hold it in place. Just be careful and slowly like lift this up a little to remove the hook, and then from there the panel will come out. But as you can see, it's quite a mess right now. All right, so also folks, I have some brake cleaner and I need to clean all this shit off because it was just quite a mess. But if you got brake cleaner, I would suggest using this to clean some of this off and then saving some for the end because it might get a little messy. But for now, we got, all right, so I managed to get the connector off, which was kind of a bitch. You had to tilt this thing over here, like where I'm at, and then you get like a flat head to push it down gently and then slowly lift up. It comes up pretty good. Again, not trying to take off this goddamn, the hoses, so it's kind of tricky, but next thing you gotta do is take off that bolt right there, and that will be, just the record, I'm gonna make a video of the first part just to show you what tools you need, but that might be a 12. I could be wrong, but we'll find out right now. That comes off next, and then this entire top part, the oil cooler, should come off. So, yeah, pain in the ass, but let's do it. So I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. I'm gonna have to redo this a little. Before you take anything off, there's a 15mm bolt right up here where the oil cooler sits. If you got a small ratchet that can get to that, get that off first because it's gonna be a little bit of a pain in the ass to get off. So I'm gonna have to put these bolts back on at least, or one just to hold and get that off so we can take the oil cooler off and get the gasket replaced. So yeah, just a word of warning, just letting you guys know. So managed to get the gasket out. This is what the remainder of this shit is. Completely, all right, thank you. Completely fucking deteriorated, barely took it out. So when you put the new one on, before you do it, make sure you guys double check these things because the gasket's gonna stay right under this little flange right here, but make sure all the pieces are out because you can see right here there's a leftover piece from the old gasket, and if you don't get rid of that, that's gonna fucking cause a leak. So make sure you clean it, not complete, make sure you completely get rid of all the plastic shit. This fucking hose, Lord, I'm on a roll today, I'm tired. Get the gasket and stuff off, make sure all of them are completely off, inspect it, and then from there we're gonna install the new gasket. But yeah, managed to get it off. This is, where the fuck I did with it? I have lost my adapter. Okay, I'm blind as shit, sadly. Don't know why. This is the new gasket I have for the adapter, since if I'm taking that off, I might as well replace it. This is the old adapter, so obviously take that big bolt out from the top. Excuse me. Take the big bolt out from the top. Get like a little flathead and just pry, well not pry, slip it right in between the cooler and the adapter. What you're gonna do is you're gonna twist a little. It should just pop right off. If you can do it with your hands, that's fine too. But yeah, I managed to do it without taking these fucking hoses off. So right now it's looking good. I may do it differently, but honestly, I'm just gonna put the adapter back on this because I gotta make sure the adapter sits perfectly, and that way the gasket doesn't get fucked after. So I'm gonna end up putting the adapter back on here, but first obviously I'm making sure everything is good, nothing looks damaged. Obviously clean this a little, it's a rag, just wipe it down and get the surface prepped, and then from there we're good to go. So stay tuned. So I managed to get the gasket on. Little fun tip, there's one way to put the gasket on, and that's finding the edges. You see right here where my finger's at right here, come on, blur out. Hey, you see how it aligns perfectly with that little gap right there? Make sure you have this gasket completely on perfect. See right here on the left side, that little gap right there, it shows that it's on good. There we go. And then make sure, use your fingernails only. Try to make sure you tuck in the seals under here so that way they can sit under this flange right here. Well, not I don't call flange. On the little gap right here. So make sure that goes under there. You see how secured everything is underneath. Make sure there's no spots lifting up or anything. Make sure it's completely flat. And then from there, we can put the adapter back on. So stay tuned. Also, I'm gonna clean that up a bit. So if you get a wire brush, I'll clean that up. That's just disgusting. So make sure you guys see. Make sure you know where that was before. Thank God I had some videos to show me where it was. It sits exactly like this. Make sure while you're hand tightening it, you're gonna hand tighten this bolt on top onto the adapter. You're gonna make sure that it's hand tight only. You're gonna make sure everything is secured. You see no gaps, and if you see a gap, then there's another one of this tab behind here, like in the center between that and the engine. So make sure you keep an eye on that. That's probably getting blocked. Make sure that's not in the way, and make sure it's fully secured. Once you hand tighten it, put 2 bolts into here, and obviously put the filter gasket right here. Make sure you put the bolts through them. Make sure you put that on, snug it, and then tighten the 15mm bolt on top. And then from there, we're gonna get this going and check for leaks later on. So stay tuned. So managed to get everything back on. Word of advice, obviously you need a 10mm bolt. I managed to get a regular extension onto here. I had a flexible one, but that only worked taking it off. I mean, taking it on, but it's on. Taking it off, you can still get to it. It's just slight of a bitch. When you get to the end, you might have to get your hand off of it. Sorry, get your hand on it and take it off. But a 10 should work in there. So when you tighten it, make sure you don't go crazy. Like probably go like half. Like this is obviously be a quarter turn. Try for half a quarter. Make sure you don't go crazy. It's nice and snug. Don't go fucking gorilla tightening it. Obviously you tighten it more if it's leaking still. It's probably just a little bit more tightness, but obviously don't try to do a quarter turn. Try to do half of it. And with the bolt on top of here, make sure it's nice and tight too. Don't gorilla force it like that. Just make sure it's nice and tight as well. Everybody always gorilla tightens everything. Make sure connectors on and everything. And then last but not least, oil filter. Plug the drain plug back up, and then we're ready to put some oil on it. So first thing, don't judge me on my valve cover. This car, I took care of it a while back, but shit happened, and I let it go. So obviously I gotta get that shit repainted. Obviously this whole bay has to be redone. But for now, my pet peeve. Oh, sorry, a little cringe. There you go. There we go. Our car takes 6 quarts of oil, so make sure you have a little more than 6, because I'm not 100% sure whether how much oil came out. Obviously the normal amount, but then you have the adapter coming out with more oil coming out. So I would suggest buying at least 2 gallons. So obviously I have Rotella T6. These oils are pretty much, people will say they're for diesel. They're actually good for our cars too. Reason being, our engines like to take thicker oil, especially for the turbo. So if you ever had that moment where your car, you do an oil change, your car feels weird, check the oil, because if it feels very thin, yeah, well, if it looks thin, there's your issue. This car does not like thin oil. This car likes straight up thick oil. So in less words, it likes thick bitches. But other than that, yeah, that was corny. Fucking somebody punch me. Other than that, let's give it a start. While we're starting it, we're gonna double check underneath, make sure there's no leaks. Give it some time, probably like 5 minutes. I'll let it run for 5 minutes, and from there, if there's no other leaks, then we're good from there. So everything looks good so far. There was a little bit of oil in between the oil pan and the engine, so I would spray some brake cleaner in there. No, not really. I'll get an air blower, get some of that oil out. That way you don't freak out thinking that you're leaking. But so far so good. So gonna let it run, see where we're at from there.